If you don't like where you are in life right now and you want to transform yourself completely, then you have come to the right place. I'm going to teach you a unique framework in this video, and I'm quite sure that you would not have seen this anywhere before. And I also claim so bravely that if you learn this framework and keep applying it every day, it will completely change your lifestyle in the next 90 days. So take a piece of paper and pen and definitely make notes. In case you are new to this channel, I am Harish. I'm a chartered accountant. I create content for CA students, helping them with the exam preparation process. I'm also the author of the book Substance and Form. Alright, let's get right into the video. Every time we want to make some big changes in our life, we set big goals. Sometimes we achieve them, but most of the time we don't, thereby leaving this entire goal achievement process to the mercy of luck. That's exactly what we are going to change right now in this video. So the framework that I was talking about just a while ago, I call it the outcome systems framework. Now, whenever we want to make some big changes in our life, whenever we want to change the trajectory of our life, we end up setting big goals. That is our very next step after we decide that we want to change our life. And such goals might look like becoming financially independent, get an all India rank in the CA exam, reduce 20 kgs in the next 4 months, and become fluent in Spanish. But what we forget is that all these things that we have written here, and so many things that you might have in your mind as well, other different things, all those are outcome. We forget to understand that. We think that if we set something as a goal like this, we might automatically end up achieving such a thing, and we are supposed to achieve such a thing. That is what we think to ourselves. But we forget the fact that these are all outcomes. Now, what does it make a difference whether we call it as a goal or whether we call it as outcome? Let me show you. Outcome is something that comes at the very end of our goal achievement process. That is like the last step. Before we arrive at the outcome, we have 3 more stages in the process. In the goal achievement process, we have 3 more stages. And those stages are, as you can see, output, input, and system. Now let me show you. To reach a particular outcome, to create the desired outcome, we need to arrive at a given amount of output. To help us arrive at this output, we need to give a certain volume of input. And to make us give the input, we need to create something called systems. So this is what I want you to understand. Don't worry at all. I'm going to give enough number of examples, enough amount of context. So everything will be clear. I'm going to give you 3 case scenarios and it will be absolutely clear. So stick to the end of this video. Everything will make sense in a short while. Whenever we set the goal, we focus only on the outcome, ignoring the preliminary 3 things that come in the process. Actually, it is not wise to invest all your attention, invest all your efforts on the outcome part. That is because if you see from a control point of view, if you see from level of control, how much amount of control you have in each of these stages in the goal setting process, goal achievement process, you have the highest control from the point of systems. From systems, you have highest control. So you can see this is actually a bottom-up process. You have highest control in systems, and gradually your control reduces. And finally, when you reach the outcome stage, you almost virtually have 0 control in the process. Therefore, we will see one by one with the examples, how do we ignore the outcome and focus all our attention on the systems and input part, particularly in the systems part. So just to give you some emphasis, I have made this word systems also in a pretty big font. Okay, so let's get on. Let's define system. System is any behavior or process that can be either automated or habituated. So let us see the first case scenario. As I told, we have 3 case scenarios. This is the first one. Let us say you want to buy an iPhone, particularly without using credit. So if you want to buy an iPhone by taking loan, then you actually don't need to have this detailed framework at all. So how do we make this goal possible? How do we make this outcome possible? Now, as we can see, the final stage of either ordering the iPhone online through website or you going to some store and buying it and getting it in your hand, that's the last step that is going to happen. That's the outcome. So don't even worry about it, when that will happen, how that will happen. That part we are not at all going to worry about it. But to make that outcome happen, what is the output we need to give? The output that we need to give is, we should have a liquid savings of at least 1,50,000 rupees. Let's say we want to buy a Pro iPhone. So we should have, on the date of purchase or a couple of days before the date of purchase, a 1,50,000 rupees of liquid savings on our hand to make this outcome, to create the desired outcome. Okay, to get that output, what is the input that we have to do? We have to give an input of, let's say, 12,500 per month of savings for a continuous 12-month period. So for a full year, we have to keep on saving 12,500 in one form or the other, so that it grows up to 1,50,000 after the end of 12-month period. Yes, it is a 12-month period. It's a long process. By the time we end up, accumulating this 1,50,000, we might even end up seeing the next iPhone model itself. So I'm not guaranteeing that any method or any framework will get you things achieved right tomorrow at all. Okay, if I actually come up with something, then in a way I'm kind of fooling you or trying to make money out of you in a not so ethical way. So the point is, yes, it is a good system, but it was going to take time. Okay, so input we have to give 12,500 per month that we just determined. Okay, to create this input, to give this input, what are all the systems we need to set in place? So that is where the final question that comes is that you either start an SIP in a mutual fund, preferably an index fund, or you create a recurring deposit system in a good bank. And once you start it, it's a one-time activity. After that, you don't interrupt the process. What do I mean by interrupting the process? Yes, let's say you start an SIP, you start an RD, a couple of months you have accumulated, you have started saving, and then the third month you start to have attraction towards some other product. So you want to buy it immediately. So you wipe off the savings, you pull out the savings, and you end up buying the other thing on credit. So that is what interrupting this process. So once you start an SIP, let the 12-month amount of savings keep happening without interruption. Now, I want to caution you on one more thing. Now, if you see, if you want to create this system, if you want to set this system in motion, you need to have a source of income worth at least, let's say, 25,000-30,000 per month to be receiving regularly to your hand, so that from that amount of 25, 30, 40,000, whatever that you receive, you can divert a saving of 12,500 every month. But let's say you don't even have that capacity. Let's say you don't have a regular source of income in the first place where you can save 12,500 or 15,000 per month. Let's say you don't have such an opportunity. If that is the situation, you fail at the level of system itself, because you are not receiving any income. Let's say you are a foundation student or you are an inter student, totally dependent on your parents' income. So in that situation, yes, you don't have a regular income of 25,000-30,000 per month. So you won't be able to make this system happen in the first place. So understand the principle. If you cannot execute the system, if you cannot create the system, then everything that is going to be on the next stage, that is not going to happen. So don't raise your hope that way. So lower your expectation, because you can't create system. You won't be able to create the input. You won't be able to give your input. Then you can't expect the output. And when you can't produce the output, don't expect the outcome. So that leads us to the core principle of, if you can't design, create or control the systems, then the outcome will not happen. When I came up with this idea, when I discovered this idea, it was such a liberation for me. It was such a liberating thought for me. I will tell you why. Because When I was around the age of 18, 19 or 20, I had big dreams. I wanted to buy iPhone, or I wanted to buy BlackBerry, or because that was the trend at that time. I wanted to buy this Nokia, N72, N73, that big phone. But I didn't have the money to invest such a big amount on a phone like that. So what I used to think is that I didn't have an idea of this detailed outcome, output, input and systems type of framework. I didn't have that in my mind. So I was focusing on outcome. I wanted an Nokia N series phone. I didn't have the money. So there was something personally wrong with me. When I was not able to achieve an outcome, I did not have the rational mind to think that because I am not able to create the system, I am not able to achieve the outcome. There is nothing to take personal here. But rather at that time, I did not have the maturity. So whenever I set a goal and I would not be able to achieve that goal, I would rather take it personally at that time. Now, when you set a goal, when you are not able to achieve it, you start to think like a scientist. You start to disintegrate that entire process, so you know how to reverse engineer it. Okay, I want the outcome at that place. That's the aspirational thing. Okay, for achieving that outcome, what is the output I need to create? For getting that output, what is the input I need to give? For getting the input, for giving the input, what is the system I need to create? So once you start to think in this type of systems way of thinking, then when you start to take things less and less personally. So let me go to the next example, which is the second case scenario. Let's say you want to get into a 15% body fat, or I will do it in a first person way. Let's say I want to get to a 15% body fat. To get to this outcome, what is the output I finally need to create? A massive amount of output. What I need to create? I need to create an output of run 700 kilometers, do at least 10,000 push-ups, and take 500 pull-ups, and do a squat of 7,000 counts. And I have to do this all in a year. So when I have an aspiration of getting to 15% body fat, I give myself at least a year's time. I don't expect me to get into a 15% body fat or 10% body fat from today within the next 3 months. No, I don't set goals like that. It's not so healthy. It's not so possible as well. So I give myself a year's time. Okay. So to get this outcome, I need to create, or I need to arrive at this output. To arrive at this output, what are all the inputs I need to give? The inputs that I need to give is, I should at least I should have 3 run sessions per week with 5 kilometers per run, and I should have 3 high intensity interval training sessions per week with 30 minutes per session. So I should have created this much amount of input. I should have given this much amount of input for this much amount of output to happen. Okay. To give this amount of input, what are all the systems that I need to set up in my life? Let me walk you through them in detail. So the first thing, by the way, this is not an exhaustive list. This is a couple of points here and there I have shared so that you get the idea. I do have a much detailed system beyond this also. I don't find the need to give entire thing here. It just would make the slide very cluttered. So I've just given 3 to 4 important points that do the heavy lifting. Okay, so the first point is, as you can see, I would keep the running gear ready all the time. So I have a requirement of going for 3 run sessions every week. So I have actually purchased 4 pairs of my running t-shirt and running trousers and leggings, so that every time I want to every time I want to head out for running, I have a fresh dry pair of cloths that are always ready. So that's the first part. I always keep the clothes washed every weekend, and keep at the beginning of every week, keep the 4 sets ready, dried and ready. So that's the first point. This I have automated. The second point is, I keep the junk food away from home, particularly the harmful sugar and harmful fats. So if you buy such things, let's say you want to buy some colored beverage or cola beverage, and you also want to buy some items filled with cheese or saturated fat, trans fat and all that, then it's not an ideal thing to buy them in the first place and then you try to fight with your willpower to not eat them after that. Once the things come into your house, it is very difficult for you to not eat them at all. It's very difficult for you to avoid them. So the wise thing is to have a system where such things don't come into your house at all. So let's say there is a couple of people who come to our house, they come with sweet boxes. What I would do is I take a couple of pieces just to make them satisfied. They brought it with love, so I have to accept it. So I will accept it with a kind face. I will open it and eat a couple of pieces right in front of them. If possible, I will distribute the sweets along with the guests itself, so kind of they take it back. Or the very next day, I will give it to the maid that we have in our house, or to the sanitary workers who come every morning. So the first thing is I don't pay money and buy the junk food myself. I don't spend 1 rupee also. That's a control that I have. The second thing, even if by chance something comes into our house, I have a system where I can eliminate it immediately, get the junk out of the house immediately. It might look a little bit of elitist what I'm saying right now, like I distribute the gifts that I get to people outside the house. The point is I don't have that much of great self-control. The moment, let's say, a box of Kaju Katli goes into the fridge, in another 3-4 hours, that's going to be inside my throat. That's going to be inside my stomach. So that's the level of self-control I have. Because I have such a poor self-control, I have to establish a system whereby I eliminate some negative elements and make sure that they don't even cross the first line of defense. So that's the elimination part. You keep junk food away from your house by eliminating. And then the third thing is to help better recovery, because you're running 3 times a week, you lift a lot of weights. So recovery has to be at most at the optimal level. So again, this is another control that I have set. And it took a lot of time for me to habituate. I'm trying. I still am a bit of work in progress, but I've kind of done the major part where I keep the phone separately in a different room and I don't carry my phone to the bed. So this I have habituated. Thereby I'm trying to optimize my sleep. So that is another system that I have. And then the last and important thing is tag this activity with an existing routine. So I'll give you an example for how I made the running thing a habit. On Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, I have tuition classes of accountancy. I teach for class 11 students on Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays. The class runs from 5:40 to 6:40 in the evening. Right after the class is over at 6:40 p.m., I take classes from my house. So right after the class is over at 6:40 p.m., I enter the studio. This is where I actually keep the clothes ready. So I change into running gear right after the class is over. So once the class is over, that's the cue for me. I have mentally in the early days, I have set a cue like that. With the very moment I say thank you and the students are gone out of the house, I come to this room and I change into running gear. So it took me like 10 to 15 iterations to get into a habit. So I tagged the activity of changing into running clothes right after the end of the accounts class that I have on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. So the class gets over at 6:40 and I make sure that I change and head out of the house before 6:50 p.m. So I don't give any conscious thought at all. So this is another system that I established. And similarly, on the days of Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays where I do this high intensity interval training, for me, somehow again, I have set this thing of when I see the clock at 4:30 p.m., I automatically do the workout inside my house. That's the other thing that I want to mention here. The workout thing, I make sure I do it right in my house. I don't have a gym subscription. Rather, I invested all the money in good dumbbells and good kettlebells, and I do all my workouts in my home itself. When I run, of course I run outside, but the weight sessions, the resistance sessions, the yoga sessions, I do right in my house. Again, this is another system. If I have a gym subscription, I have to deliberately get ready for the gym and I have to go all the way. Some days it might be extra hot, some days it might be rainy. There is a lot of friction between my good intention of being at home to see myself entering the gym. Between these 2 points, there would be a lot of obstacles. So I don't want that to happen. So the moment I have the good intention of let's exercise, I should be able to do it without any delay. So I bought the equipment, weights and everything myself, and I do it right at my house. So this is case scenario number 2. Let's go to case scenario number 3, which is Clear CA exam with 65% aggregate. So this is case scenario 3. Now this is the outcome. We all have dreams to get a rank, or we want to clear CA exams, both groups with 60 plus aggregate. So to make this outcome happen, what is the output that we need to give? We need to give a solid performance in the main exam. So that's the output. That's the last line of control that you have, beyond which you are not able to do, you won't be able to do anything. So the last line of control is in the exam hall. What can you do there? Whether you clear with 70% or you just pass with 52% or you're not able to get the aggregate of 50%, everything happens in the exam hall only. Okay, so that's the output part. So to give that output part, what input that you have to ensure? You have to, if you have to arrive at that output, you have to ensure an input of 150 hours of solid work per paper. By investing that 150 hours, you do 5 rounds of revision, you write 2 mock tests, and also you take RTPs, you do the RTPs, you do them in a very serious way. So this is the input part with respect to this case scenario. Okay, to make this input happen, what are all the systems we need to create? So the systems that we need to create is what I've been telling all in my channel. This whole channel is about live a low stimulus life, do how to do time blocking, study with zero distraction, better planning system, how to capture data, how to create and capture data, how to do weekly reviews, and how to do course correction. So now you see, you might get a complete idea. I've been executing only this outcome systems framework all along in my channel. Now what I want you to do is take a piece of paper and write like 5 to 10 goals. You want to become debt free, you want to buy a car, you want to take your parents on an airplane. You may have any number of good outcome that you may want to happen. Let's say you want to get married, you want to find a good life partner. Your outcome could be anything. Try to fit that into this type of framework, this outcome systems framework. Reverse engineer by 4 ways, like outcome, output, input, systems. For getting that outcome, what is the final output that you have to arrive? To arrive at that output, what input you have to give? And to give that input, what are all the systems that you have to set and create in the first place? Remember the core principle. If you cannot execute the system, if you cannot either design or create or control the system, you won't be able to control the outcome. So give a try of this thing with your personal goals. In case you know the outcome, you are clear about what outcome you want, but you are not able to disintegrate that or reverse engineer that into what output, what input, and what systems that you need to create, please feel free to share your goals in the comment section below. I might either reply to your comment, or if such goal happen to be really addressable to a larger amount of people, I might make future videos out of it. I might share the entire system of how you can break such a goal. By the way, this is my book Substance and Form, which I told at the intro of this video. If you're a CA student or a CMA student or a CS student who is worried about how to clear your exams and you need a proper process oriented guidance, this book will definitely help you. Many people have already bought from me once I started introducing this in this channel. A great support people have given. So if you want to buy a copy, the link to purchase this copy I have given in the description. Make use of it. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye. Thank you.